Hi, I'm Dr. Andrew Kent, the medical director of Region 5 of New York START. I'm making this video today because I've been getting asked by a lot of patients, friends, and some family, am I depressed or am I just sad about what's going on in the world right now? And it's a tough question because I think sadness is appropriate. Sad I can't go see my family, sad I can't go out to dinner with my friends. And I'm naturally sad because, as you can see, I'm a Jet fan, and this is how I get dressed up for work these days. And the last time they won the Super Bowl, I was 10 years old. And frankly, this week I was such a loser, I watched Super Bowl 3 on YouTube. So sadness, I think, is something we're all experiencing right now. But when does sadness become depression? To make a diagnosis of depression, you need a depressed mood, which is sort of a no duh, right? Obvious. And often you see something called anhedonia, which means a loss of pleasure and a loss of interest. So like when I went back and watched the old game, I got a kick out of it. Figured it's probably the only time in my life I'll ever see them win. Then I went back, of course, put the news on. That brings us all down a little bit. But that sense of being able to escape from it a little bit, that's super important. So to make the diagnosis of depression, you need to, of course, see the depressed mood. You often see this anhedonia that I'm discussing. But here's some other things to look for. There's something called somatic symptoms. That's mean physical symptoms that we feel. The body doesn't feel right, like a heaviness, tightness on the head. I've had people describe like a band around their head that they just felt that wasn't correct. Sleep is often not right. And insomnia is tricky because it could be too much, where someone's staying in bed all day, oversleeping, or it could be not enough sleep. And insomnia also, you could have early, middle, and late. Early is, as it sounds, you can't fall asleep. Middle insomnia is where you wake up in the middle of the night, and late is when you get up too early. So look for sleep changes. And I emphasize the word changes because the same is in the next symptom I'm going to discuss, which is appetite. Some people, when they're depressed, overeat like crazy. They put on weight. You know, especially we're all home now with quarantine. You're going in the closet for your Oreos, your Malamars, your ice cream. But there are a lot of people who don't eat when they're depressed and they lose weight. And that's not healthy either. Another thing I want to mention is executive functioning and concentration. The brain is an organ that's responsible for a lot of activity. And if you're depressed, it's not firing on all cylinders. So you'll see almost ADD-like qualities, distracted, unfocused. You can't stick with that book. You know, you really like that TV show Below Deck or 90 Day Fiance, show you what I've been doing lately. But you're not sticking with it, right? And you're on to the next thing. Another thing you see in depression is fatigue, just like a loss of energy, a loss of endurance. You just can't muster the oomph. Oomph is not a very psychiatric or medical term, but you just don't have what you normally have. And there's also a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. The person sometimes even turns it on their self-esteem. They feel more worthless. They feel guilty. And if it gets bad enough, become somewhat preoccupied with death and a lot of suicidal thoughts. That doesn't mean every person's going to go out there and kill themselves, but that's just something that the brain begins to get preoccupied with when somebody is depressed enough. So you can see there's a lot of symptoms, and like any medical specialty, don't diagnose yourself. You know, if you're sad and you have supportive family and friends and people around you, that's great. But if it's really starting to wear you down, you can't share it with anyone, you're just not yourself, then you see a professional, somebody that knows how to diagnose. Some of us in the mental health field, you know, we may look a little nutty or sound a little nutty, but that's what we're trained to do, to be able to distinguish between what's the normal sadness versus what's a true clinical depression. And at a time like this, it's all the more important because I think so much of us are walking around with anxiety and depression. And as I mentioned on a videotape that I did previously, I think we are going to have a mental health pandemic because this is going to impact all of us in our own unique ways. So it's a serious subject. If you're feeling those symptoms that I mentioned, it pays to talk to somebody. Doesn't mean you're going to go on medication, although medication can help for depression. It may mean you'll look at your coping strategies. You know, should I talk more to my friends? Should I exercise more? Should I meditate? And again, on this YouTube channel that we have here at Region 5 of New York START, there are a lot of things that you could learn in terms of how to do better self-care. And I think that's a key take-home message, self-care. If you let that go, your likelihood for depression is very, very high. So again, I hope this information is helpful about distinguishing between sadness and depression. And from a longtime Jet fan who is frequently sad, you don't want it to turn into depression. So go out there, take care of yourself, stay safe, and hopefully we'll all be back to normal activities real soon.